in our next event. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. You too. All right. So our next speaker is Professor Dr. Shamima Parvin Lesker. I would like to give a piece of information about her. She's a professor and head of anatomy, MH Samorita Medical College from Bangladesh. She's also a member AUSN Board of Governors. And today she's going to talk about knowledge, attitude, and skill of postgraduate medical students regarding plagiarism in Bangladesh. So I would like to give the floor to Professor Shamima Parvin Lesker. Professor, can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
No problem at all. It's my great pleasure. Are you able to share your screen, Professor?
Sure. I'm showing. Oh, I see. It is only shown. It says only the host can share.
Right.
The
we have
meeting.
to. All right. Yeah. Well, I'll let my friends to let you share your screen. Sorry, just a second. They said they will give you, they will let you to share your screen in a few seconds.
Yeah.
Yes, you can share your screen, Professor. All right. Sorry for making you wait.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem.
Today I am going to talk on knowledge, attitude, and skill of postgraduate medical students on plagiarism in Bangladesh. Actually, these views are mine and do not necessarily represent of my institution and the association those I belong to. And I have no conflict of interest to declare. The picture used in this talk has taken from internet. Plagiarism is the final stage of publication is the final stage of research, and we publish our research for sharing our discoveries and knowledge to gain recognition, prestige, degree, promotion, and fund. But publication process needs integrity. Misconduct may have a detrimental effect on credibility of research and the reliability of scientific literature. Fraudulent data and plagiarized manuscript may affect the medicine and harm the patient. PubMed revealed that the 67% detraction were attributed to the misconduct, including fabrication of data, duplication publication, and plagiarism. Nature also published a news that the 23% of submitted articles in one of its journals were rejected because of plagiarism. A research was done on more than 4,000 articles from PubMed and the Web of Science, and it was found that the 22% articles were plagiarized. Actually, availability of internet access, young scientists are now publishing their research by copy, cut, paste, or preparation of manuscript by some modification. Plagiarism is the third most serious scientific misconduct. Many academics often plagiarize because they are not sure what constitutes plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism. Due to insufficient education and inconsistency in enforcement, plagiarism is still prevailing in academia worldwide. Actually, we want to what is the condition of Bangladesh on plagiarism? There are the sporadic news in the newspaper. Here is some news clipping. It says that the Muhammad Omar Farooq, an associate professor of Islamic History and Cultural Department, has faced an allegation of plagiarism his PhD thesis from the researcher of two Turkish professors. Here is another news clipping that it says that the Dhaka University had blocked the promotion of associate professor of sociology department on ground of plagiarism. And she plagiarized a book and 6 articles. That was the crime. And here is another news clipping that it says that the editor of the Chicago Journal alleged that an associate professor of mass communication and journalism department of Dhaka University and a lecturer of criminology department copied from journal article without proper citation. Here is another news clipping, and it is written in Bangla. So it says that the one of the university, Kushtia University of Bangladesh, has terminated job of 3 teachers of a mechanical engineering department on ground of plagiarism. They plagiarized their article from technical review of Mitsubishi motor. So I am interested to see what is the actually situation in medical arena. This 4 news clipping I have taken from the different newspaper, and it was happening in 1 year. Within 1 year, we got 4 newses, and for the we are think that there is also there are the plagiarism in the medical arena, but we don't have any news. Therefore, to understand the current knowledge, attitude, and the skill of postgraduate medical students on plagiarism, I have done a research by 3 hours interactive classes on plagiarism, and taught different component of the plagiarism, as for example, history of plagiarism, definition, classification, consequences of plagiarism, what are the causes of plagiarism, and how to prevent, avoid plagiarism. These are the components I taught the students of 50 postgraduate medical students. And this 50 postgraduate medical student was evaluated by pre-test and post-test questionnaire. And this questionnaire has got 2 parts. First part was regarding demographic data, as for example, age, sex, education and qualification, number of publication, course or training on plagiarism, and information some organization, those who are dealing the plagiarism, as for example, International Committee of Medical Journal Editor, Committee of Publication Ethics, World Association of Medical Editors, and Office of Research Integrity. And also ask the student about the plagiarism checker software such as Authenticate, Turnitin, and Crossref. The second part, which consists of copy paste, duplication, publication, meaning of self-plagiarism, fabrication, falsification, and strategy to prevent plagiarism. By this question, we judge their knowledge and attitude. To judge the knowledge of plagiarism and how to prevent plagiarism, we had a multiple choice question. But to understand the attitude, we use the Likert scale, and participants were given a choice of yes, no, don't know. That means 3-stage Likert scale I used. And for the skill, to understand the skill, after intervention, all the medical students were asked to submit a writing paper, writing a paragraph, and that writing were checked by the plagiarism checker software. and it was ethical clearance was obtained from IRB of Bangladesh Bioethics Society, and written informed consent were obtained from the student prior to start intervention. No names or identifying information was included in the questionnaire. Research result was depicted anonymously, and information provided by the student were totally confidential. All the questionnaire and the informed consent were stored in a secure place. Now the result. Actually, in our study, maximum, that means most of the students were female, that means 78%, and their age was 30, average age was 30.24 years. And all the respondents were at the thesis part of their postgraduate student. They did not have any previous course or training on plagiarism. I am showing this table, and regarding the abbreviation of the organization, you are seeing here that the most of the students actually not clearly know about the name of this organization. But after intervention, 100% they understand the meaning of these organizations. And another question on the identity turnitin and cross-ref, and some knew the answer, but most of the students did not know. And after the intervention, they knew the 100% knew the meaning of the authenticate turnitin and cross-ref, and the statistical difference was significant. Here you are seeing the interesting figure that before the intervention, only the 8% students said that they did copy paste in their they used to use they did the copy paste, but after intervention the number was number were increased, that is 12%. Probably they understand that throughout they was very shy to confess that they did plagiarism in their writing. But after the intervention, they understand that throughout the worldwide, plagiarism is still prevailing. So they are encouraged to say, confess that they did plagiarism. That's why after intervention, the number of confession of copy paste increased. And here the how to prevent at a question of the how to prevent plagiarism, most of the students before intervention was divided. And some says the paraphrasing, some says the paraphrasing with referencing, some says quotation with referencing, but only 6% says the to prevent the or the cope with the not to do the plagiarism. They could do the paraphrase and with reference as well as the quotation and the reference. But after intervention, you say BD. Most of the students, about 72% students, they understand that if to prevent plagiarism, they have to do paraphrase the sentence and with references, and also quotation and the references. You said in this table that before intervention, at a question of do you think one article can submit to another journal if delayed? In this question, they actually divided, and most of the students do not know the answer. And do not, and some says no, or which is below 50%. But after the intervention, the 100% student understand that an article cannot be submitted to another journal if delayed. At a question of, do you think same article can be published in another language? Most of the students are divided, but after the intervention, the 100% student understand that same article cannot be published in another language. At a question of, do you think 2 or 3 articles can be made from research or thesis? Most of the students are divided before intervention. But after intervention, the 100% student understand they cannot do 2 or 3 articles from research using same introduction methodology and the discussion. Another question that is, do you think fabricated writing should be retracted? Before intervention, they are divided, but the after intervention, 100% student understand that the said yes, the fabricated writing should be retracted. At a question of, do you think online article is easy to identify plagiarism? Most of the students says, 86% students says yes, it is easy to identify plagiarism. But after, but 20% student do not know the answer, and after intervention, 100% says that the online article is easy to identify plagiarism. And the statistical analysis is significant. And the at another question, taking paragraph, picture, or graph from own article is known as the self-plagiarism. 80% say that yes, it is called the self-plagiarism if they take a paragraph picture from their own article without reference. But after intervention, all the students understand that the taking paragraph picture and the graph from own article without reference is known as the self-plagiarism. So in my conclusion, I can say the comparative data between the pre and post intervention have highlighted a general lack of understanding of a basic concept of plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism, which improve after intervention. And the intervention of the plagiarism education will improve the awareness of postgraduate medical students in Bangladesh. Definitely, I have some limitation of this study. Actually, this is questionnaire-based research, and hence the result rely on the replies that were received. All the components of plagiarism had not been explored to that extent, and the sample size was small, and it may not represent the national scenario of Bangladesh. So, this result, it can be validated through the further study with undertaking the large number of participants and more duration of time for training or workshop in near future. So I am right now doing the end stage research on the knowledge, attitude, and skill of a postgraduate student on plagiarism in Bangladesh. And if anybody in your country, that means I'm in Turkey, it is multi-country research and collaborative research I am right now doing. It's a large number of population. So if you are interested in this research, you can contact me, and so we can collaborate each other to develop our population, our students, to prevent plagiarism. These are the references, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lesker, for an enlightening and entertaining talk on, strategies how to prevent plagiarism. And by this walk, I think we have the chance to know about the current knowledge of postgraduate students in Bangladesh regarding plagiarism. So please accept our sincere thanks. I wonder whether there are any questions from the floor.
Yes, I would like to say something. Thank you very much, Prof. Shamima. It's nice to see you here with us. And thank you very much for your nice presentation. And it shows us that the importance of ethics education in young people in our faculties, especially in publication ethics, or it is just a one area, but there are too many more areas that we need. We have to learn our students the bioethical issues, and you presented one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hassan, and thank you for inviting me.
And also, we would like to join your study, and I will contact with you via email. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Professor. Are there any other questions? We actually have a couple of more minutes. All right, thank you very much, Professor Shamima Lesker, for your valuable contribution. We hope to see you in our next event. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Thank you. I wonder, Hasan Hocam, I wonder whether our next speaker is going to be with you. I think, let me just mention his name, Professor Mohammad Sadiq.
But I couldn't.
I couldn't see him on the list of participants. So I just wonder whether he's here with us.
Me too.
Shall we wait for a couple of minutes?
Keep in touch with him.
Right.
Maybe.
I'm not sure whether he's probably not with us at the moment, because I'm checking the list of participants and I couldn't see his name. If this is okay, is there any way of contacting him?
Tamam. Merhaba.
Bu etik kurul kararı.
Ercüment Hocam.
Ercüment Hocam, sesinizi duyuyoruz.
Excuse me.
Let me.
Bekleyelim hocam.
Bekleyelim hocam. Yani
tamam.
şöyle hocam, sıradaki hocamızı alabiliriz. Ben hemen bir iletişim.
Tamam. So while we're waiting for Professor Mohammad Sadiq from Pakistan, unfortunately, the next speaker, Dr. Sumira Malik from the MIT Institute of Biotechnology, she said she has another talk on 11:30, so she's not going to be with us. And with regards to Dr. Abhishek Kumar, he is going to present his talk in the afternoon around 5 p.m. with Turkish local time. So I think we have to wait for a couple of minutes for Hasan Hoca. He's going to give us some information regarding Professor Mohammad Sadiq, because he's our next speaker. But let me just, repeat the current situation for other speakers. So Dr. Sumira Malik, she couldn't make it today. I'm afraid she's not going to be with us because she said she had another presentation at 11:30. And for Dr. Abhishek Kumar, he was going to present this morning, but then he said he couldn't make it he won't be able to make it, but then his presentation is going to happen in the afternoon about 5 p.m. I just would like to remind you this. All right. I think Hasan Hoca is trying to contact. Thank you very much, Nadir Godby. Thank you very much, Professor. Professor says thank you to everybody. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation and for your contribution.
Hocam, ben de şöyle kısa bir değişiklikten bilgi vermek istedim katılımcılara. Evet, Kumar hocamız 12'de konuşacaktı ama onunkini yine bu salonda ben 5 demiştik ama 5.30'da diyeceğiz. 17.30'da alacağız hocamızı. Bir de Evren hocamızın sunumu 11.30'da gerçekleşecek. Öğleden sonraydı Evren hocamızın da sunumu ama insan ve sanat doğasına dair bir konuşma yapacak. O da saat 11.30'da başlayacak. O arada herhalde şimdi Hasan hocam da bağlantımızı sağladığında diğer konuşmacımızı da alabileceğiz. Programdaki bu değişiklikler hakkında da yine ben de bir kısaca bilgi vermek istedim.
Teşekkürler hocam.
Zaten programı da bu şekilde güncelledik. Oradan da ayrıntıları yani yeni programın güncel halini katılımcılar görebilirler. Oradan yine takip edilebilir.
Basmaya gerek yok herhalde hocam, değil mi? Elektronik imza. İsterseniz onlara da atalım, risk atmayalım hiç.
Tamam.
Tekrar sizlere alalım.
Hayır, dert değil, şu toplantıda da.
Right, okay, we are now back. So Professor Dr. Mohammad Sadiq Shamim, he's with us at the moment. Professor, can you hear us? Professor Mohammad Sadiq Shamim, could you hear us at the moment?
Right, okay.
Hello.
Professor, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for attending. If this is okay, I would like to give a piece of information about you. So our next speaker is Professor Dr. Mohammad Sadiq Shamim from the Dow University of Health Sciences from Pakistan. He's a professor of surgery and additional director at the Dow Institute of Health Professionals Education. His research includes teaching methods, ethics education, and surgery. And his current project is ethics in undergraduate medical education. His area of interest is health professionals education and faculty development in developing countries. I would like to give the floor to you, Professor.
You can share your screen if you have slides from the green button at the bottom of the screen. So thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you very much. Is my voice clear to you?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Great. I'll share my screen. Yes, thank you everyone for inviting me and giving me opportunity to be here with you. Today I'll be talking about overcoming the challenges in bioethics education for improving the future of healthcare. I've been hearing the presentations, the English presentations from yesterday, and they were lovely. It was really nice to see all the friends again after so many such long time. And they were very interesting also. So I will build up from there what has already been discussed about bioethics and ethics education. And I will not go into the details of basics of things. So my start would be from what we already know. We know that people judge their healthcare providers on their performance, rather than what the science and what the knowledge they have or what do they have in their minds. But whatever we do is what is seen by our patients and our colleagues and people around us. So it's the performance that counts. And everybody agrees that bioethics should be taught to healthcare professionals. And this is literature proven, this is journal observations, and accordingly, there is nobody in I think who would say that bioethics should not be taught to healthcare providers. So my presentation is going to be on bioethics education, and it is based on my personal observations, reflections, personal research into this, which I've been doing. I've been teaching bioethics for the last 20 years now, and have been doing research on it also. So my whatever I'm going to say in the next 30 minutes is going to be based on my observations, the reflection on my experience, personal research, and published evidence on bioethics education. And the basic question that we would like to answer is that why haven't we succeeded? Although everybody believes that bioethics should be taught to healthcare providers, but why haven't we succeeded in translating the importance of bioethics in health professional education per se? Some other questions arise for going into the answer of main question. The first question that I'll be talking about is what drives bioethics education. Then I'll move on to what are the main contextual barriers in development of bioethics education. Why are we not being able to, what are the barriers which are stopping us from taking bioethics education to the next level? And then we'll just have some ideas, share some ideas, how can we overcome these barriers and improve bioethics education within our own context. This is a picture from my city, Karachi in Pakistan. It's called the three swords of the founder of Pakistan. All right, so that was just a little break. So what drives bioethics education? Now, Liv Vygotsky,
Professor,
scientist, and he believed that learning is more than the ability to think. It is the acquisition of many specialized abilities for thinking about a variety of things. Hello?
Sorry, Professor, for interrupting. We can't actually see your slides passing. It's just the one that we see now is Bioethics Education, the one with the title of Bioethics Education. So we can't see the picture you have recently showed.
Okay, let me stop sharing and share again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can you see the slide now? Can you see a picture?
Yes, thank you very much. We can see
Yes,
now.
you can, yes.
Okay. All right, so these are the questions that I was talking about. What drives bioethics education? What are the main contextual barriers in development of bioethics education? And how can we overcome these barriers? And this is the picture I was talking about, the three swords of the founder of Pakistan in Karachi, Pakistan. Okay, are you with me with the slide changes? Can you see the slides changing?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yes, we can see.
All right. So what drives bioethics education? Now, to look into this, I would go back to Lev Vygotsky, who was a Russian scientist, and he said that learning is more than just the ability to think. It is the acquisition of many specialized abilities for thinking about a variety of things, which we now call cognitive ability or cognitive skills. When we combine different knowledge from different areas, from your subject, discipline, from your environment, from people around you, and then use it to solve problems that come into your day-to-day life. So, and Vygotsky called it socio-cultural theory of learning. And he said that socio-cultural theory develops through participation, or learning develops through participation in cultural, linguistics, and historically formed settings. On top of that, let me say a few words from Gerd Hofstede. Hofstede was an American sociologist, and he said that culture is the collective programming of the mind, which distinguishes the members of one group of category of people from other group or category of people. So while Vygotsky was talking about learning through socio-cultural influences, Hofstede tells us what exactly is the culture and cultural influence. And according to Hofstede, when we are learning, we have three different levels of learning. The first thing is human nature, that comes from who we are, from the genetics. Then is the specific groups that as a specific group, we learn things from our culture. If I'm living in Pakistan, I learn things from my Pakistani culture. If you're living in Turkey, you learn things from your Turkish culture. If I move from Pakistan to Turkey, in 3 years, 4 years time, a lot of things that I learned from my Pakistani culture will change into my newly adopted Turkish culture. So this is something we learn from our culture, from our surrounding. And then there are personality traits, inherited or learned through your experiences. And these can be specific to individuals. So groups act in a certain way, individuals can act in a certain way. Now with this background, we go into the cultural diversity. There are a lot of people, different types of people living in different cities, different countries. And one can say that there are different cultures in every region. For example, in Istanbul, there are different types of people with different cultural backgrounds. However, from the theoretical, the philosophy that we know, there has to be some common grounds, some similarities within this cultural diversity. And this similarity creates the environment where ethics or morality takes up. And this is very different if you go from one place to the other, which, for example, we compare the Western culture with Eastern culture, and the similarities and differences both are there. But if you see the basic conceptual differences, Western culture is more individualistic in nature. People focus on independence. People are right-based. Personal individual rights are very important. But when we come to the Eastern culture, we see a community-oriented group of people. We see people talking about responsibilities more than rights. Nobody says that, you should not lie because it's the other person's right to know the truth. In East, we say it's your responsibility to say the truth. So you see that there is a conceptual difference, although both the things are saying the same thing, that one should not lie, but there is a conceptual difference in the approach towards it. And this conceptual difference or these conceptual differences take us to different ways of teaching ethics, because ethics is not like science. Ethics is about people. Ethics is about the environment, and different types of people take morality or ethics in a different way. And there has to be different ways, and they live differently. They perform their rituals and their traditional gatherings differently. Similarly, our students are different. These 4 pictures, all 4 pictures are from healthcare professional students from 4 different parts of the world. And you can see the difference between students. You know, the way they are dressed, the way they are standing, the way they are intermingling between genders. So our students can be different from students in Pakistan are different from students in USA or UK, or maybe your students in Turkey are different from students in Pakistan. So for these different students, the profession they are going to follow is also different. There is a wide difference between how healthcare professionals conduct their profession in West, in USA, in Australia, and in Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh. And I can see Dr. Shamima here with me in this group, and I'm sure she would agree with me that expectations of community, expectations of people change with countries, within nationalities, within groups of people. Within the same country, there are different types of expectations, different types of people living. So how can we teach ethics in the same way to everyone? Same topics, same values to all kinds of people. So one thing that is absolutely definite is that the social culture influences in bioethics education has to be taken very, very carefully, understood very carefully before we can decide what to teach and how to teach to our healthcare professionals. There was a study done by Kim in 2007, and Kim conducted a questionnaire. Kim actually asked questions to American students and Korean students. And I'm just quickly, I'll go through the, what Kim did. Kim asked these 2 questions. The first question was, you become aware that a close colleague failed to inform his patient about an error he had made, and a broken instrument was left in the tooth of a patient by a colleague. And Kim asks the professional that, is it your professional duty to inform the patient? It's a very simple question. It's just about doing the right thing. Just think about it. The second question that Kim asked them is, you become concerned that damage to the mouth and teeth of a young child has been caused by physical abuse. Okay, is it your professional duty to report this to the relevant child protection authority? Now these are simple questions. The questions, yes or no is the answer. And Kim asked these questions to American and Korean students, one from extreme West and one from the extreme East. Let's see how the answers were. 12 out of 13 American and 5 out of 15 Korean respondents said that they would tell the patient what they had detected. You see, almost all the Americans are saying that, yes, I would tell the patient, while only 1/3 of the Koreans are saying that I will tell the patient. And the Korean respondent reported that they did that because they think that their colleague, their responsibility includes towards the colleagues also, along with the patient. So you see that the community-oriented mindset that is coming in here. Let's not be judgmental. We are not talking about who is right and who is wrong, because there's a lot of gray area in ethics. And if you can justify your decision, you're probably right. For the second question about possible child abuse, every American responded that they would take active measures, report the case to the authority, or examine the child in the absence of the parent. every American is thinking about child abuse, while Korean, less than half said they would not take further action regarding possible abuse. Almost half of them said that they would not take any further action about possible abuse. Now you can say that in Korea, probably child abuse is common or uncommon, if they did not think about it, or they thought that this is all right, or whatever. We are not going into the causes. We are not judging anyone on this. But the whole purpose of discussing these two questions was that the approach to ethics changes from the West to the East, or from the East to the West. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's just about different ways of thinking. This study concluded that culturally situated differences in the understanding of professional ethics, where Western professionals aspire to maximum autonomy, honesty, and justice, whereas professionals in the East put collegial responsibility above other norms. As I said, it's not about right or wrong. They are both right in their own cultural context, in their own context. However, there is a difference which we need to understand. Now, coming to bioethics education, what we understand from all this is that knowledge without context, this is something which is very new, and I came up with it from my own experience because of all the WhatsApp messages that we get and we have to delete all the time. So I would say that knowledge without context is like a meaningless forwarded WhatsApp message. Everybody sees them, but nobody has any idea what to do with them. So this is just to be on the lighter side. Now, you see, there is the idea of this answering the previous question was, how does social cultural context influence, or do the place where we are living and we are teaching ethics expect different ways of teaching ethics? And yes, it does. I live in Karachi, Pakistan. This is a view of the beach in Karachi. And I cannot teach ethics the way I would teach ethics in UK or USA. Excuse me. Next question is, what are the main barriers or challenges in bioethics education that we need to look into? Now, you see, these are the elements that influence ethics education. Okay, context that we talked about, community expectations that we see, faculty, student, resources, and curriculums. Now, context, cultural context, or social cultural context, and community expectations is something that we cannot do anything about. But these things within the red circles or red ovals are the things that we can actually do something about. So let's take them one by one. Students in the East, whether you label them from a regional level, or you label them on a religious level, because in the East, religion is one of the things which influences mindset and influences education. Our students want to serve their community. You talk to students in the East, you ask them, why do you want to become a doctor or a dentist? They would say, because I want to serve the humanity. I want to serve my community. It's later on that when we give them 4 years or 5 years of education, then the thinking changes, and then they start thinking about money and everything. So anyway, our students in the East are also influenced by the Western standards and lifestyle, which they see from social networks, TV, cinema, or through their visits, or through other forms of media. Some of them are actually looking forward to work in the West, especially in Pakistan. It's the India, Pakistan, Bangladesh region. It's a very common thing that people, medical students or health professionals, they would want to get their professional degrees, higher education from Western countries. But eventually, they do want to come back and serve the community. Now, what about faculty? What is our faculty like? In healthcare professionals, usually our faculty is subject specialists. Like I'm a surgeon by training and I'm teaching ethics. I have a colleague who is a pediatrician, and because of his love for ethics or love for teaching ethics, he's taking courses in ethics. He's teaching ethics in the medical and dental college. So we have, our faculty has limited knowledge and limited training in teaching bioethics, number one. Plus, most of our faculty has out of region influences, because in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and this subcontinent, people go for their higher degrees and for higher education to Western countries. So many of them come back with Western influences on their ethics and on their values. Resources, the text that we use for teaching bioethics. Most of the texts that we have in English language, I'm not sure about Turkey, because the medium of the teaching in Turkey is Turkish, but medium of teaching healthcare professionals in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and most other countries in Asia is English. And most of the text that we receive on bioethics is from Western countries or English-speaking countries, which does not contextually relate to our socio-cultural context. It is not reflective of our socio-cultural context. Then there are language issues. You know, ethics or culture has a lot to do with language. There are words in Urdu which cannot be translated in English. There is no word which means exactly for the word that is there in Urdu. And similarly, sentiments, whether it is a sentiment in happiness or sentiment in anger or sentiment in sadness, it's not possible to translate a sentiment from one language to the other. No matter how much you try, it cannot be exact sentiment transfer. So language is a big issue when we talk about socio-cultural concepts. Then we talk about curriculum, things that we are teaching in ethics. Most of the curriculum that is developed in our institutes, it's a copy-pasted curriculum, because this is how it has been taught in Harvard University, and it's available on their website. So, okay, we'll just put it up in our university in Pakistan and use it. It has not developed from within the society. It has not developed from the community. So a lot of times it does not reflect the problems and issues, morals and values of the society where it is being taught. A lot of times it is not socio-culturally relevant. Beliefs and social norms of the people living in this community is often not reflected in the curriculum or the text that is being taught as bioethics in bioethics education. And then the standards are different. Culturally, the standards are different. Because of the basic difference of diversity in cultural diversification, the standards are different. You know, one thing can be very important for a Western person, and it may not be that important for an Eastern person, or it can be vice versa. Something we talk about things which are probably not unheard of in Western societies. We talk about, for example, and I'm just giving this example, not going into which is right and which is wrong. We talk about family traditions. We talk about extended families. We talk about, our patients come to the hospital, half of the village come with them. We cannot keep our patient isolated in a room alone. You know, with our patients, usually there are 2 or 3 people living in the hospital, which is not like when I was working in UK. In UK, the patient is the responsibility of the nursing staff, and they take very good care of the patient, probably better care than the family members. But it's traditional. And if I ask my patients in Karachi to act like my patients in UK and tell them, okay, nobody would stay with the patient, they would freak out. They would not understand this. It's not from where their morals and values are coming from. So these influences have to be seen, have to be considered, have to be taken care of while developing your curriculum, goals and content for teaching bioethics, for teaching ethics to healthcare professionals. And our resources, the text that we use, is not catered for that, is not customized for that. And therefore, when we are teaching bioethics to our students from Western books, Western textbooks, they could not relate to it. When we use examples from the Western textbooks, they could not relate to it. So we need to have something which the students can relate to. This is another angle of my city, Karachi, which I am proud of. Looks very nice and clean. All right, so moving to the next question. So how can we overcome the challenges? We saw that there are challenges. We saw that, first we saw that there are influences of socio-cultural environment. Then we saw that there are challenges because what we are doing now is probably not the best way of teaching bioethics or developing bioethics. And that is probably the reason why we have not been successful in doing what should have been done in bioethics education. These are the things that we teach in bioethics. And the list can go beyond what is written on the slide right now. There are values, concepts, morality. We talk about philosophy. We talk about ethical codes. We talk about legal framework of the country we are teaching, students' behavior and attitudes, and cognitive skills. Cognitive skills, yani things that students would do to make their own decisions. But whatever we are teaching, is it so socio-culturally relevant to our students? What are the socio-cultural influences that are stopping us from teaching the right thing, or the thing which is more relevant to our students? The delivery of education, the way we are teaching our students, the way ethics is being taught, because it is being taught by scientists who have science, who has done science or taught science throughout their lives. Ethics is not science. Ethics is more of sociology. Ethics has a lot of gray area, unlike science subjects where there is right and wrong, correct diagnosis and wrong diagnosis. Ethics is a lot about how people feel, how people think. Same decision can be right for someone, can be not so right for the other person. And institutional policies. At times, I believe institutional policies are also not happening. So this is another thing which one of my research came up with, and it has already been published as Continuum of Barriers in Ethics Education. It says that looking into these three things that I just talked about, faculty for teaching ethics, text and reference material for learning ethics, and importance given by institutions. If you look at them on a continuum, this is how it goes. For example, at one end of the continuum, if you can see my pointer, let me have a pointer first. It's a mouse. So if you can see that, one end of the faculty continuum is faculty who is forced to teach because it's in vogue to teach ethics. So every institute says, okay, we will teach bioethics, and just push faculty into teaching bioethics. Faculty from basic science, faculty from clinical sciences. Or maybe people are invited from outside. People like there was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, before when I started teaching ethics, the norm in Pakistan was that they would bring clerics from mosques and religious clerics from different places to teach ethics. They do not know about doctor-patient relationship. They do not know about the ethics of technology. They do not know about environmental ethics. So probably they were not the right people to teach. Then we came up with self-motivated people, as I said, a pediatrician, a surgeon, a physiologist, people who were motivated to teach ethics and thought that it is important. They started teaching ethics. But at the end of the continuum, there should be primary faculty, like the faculty for anatomy, faculty for pathology, faculty for surgery. There should be faculty specifically for teaching bioethics to healthcare professionals. Similarly, on the text and published material continuum, there is Western text on one end, and there is locally published relevant text, relevant to the socio-economic, socio-cultural issues of that particular region. coming to the importance giving to bioethics education from universities, at one end there is apathy of regulatory bodies. Like in Pakistan, the regulatory body says that ethics should be taught, must be taught in every medical school and dental college. However, there is no compulsion. Like they have, they say that anatomy must be taught, surgery, medicine must be taught, and then they give an elaborate program for it, that this is how it should be taught, this is how many faculty should be there in every college per student. These are the books that should be consulted. But when it comes to teaching bioethics, they just say, oh yes, it must be taught, but then there is a complete lack of any further regulations, any further guidelines. They just say it should be taught. They don't say how much, at what level or anything. So there is sort of an apathy at one end and full recognition like any other subject at the other end. Now on this continuum, if we want to actually do something about bioethics education, I think this is where we need to be, with primary faculty, locally published texts, and full recognition of this discipline for teaching bioethics. Another view of my city before I conclude. So in conclusion, healthcare professional institutes must recognize bioethics as important discipline as any other science discipline being taught in the institute. And as I tell people in my institute, in my university, that if a medical student does not know names of all the bones in the body, should the student be pass the exam and become a doctor? Should the student be performing as a doctor? And they say, well, no, they should know about the bones of the body. And then I ask them, if a student does not know how to talk to a patient nicely, should that student be graduated and made to serve people in the community? And obviously the answer is no, they should not be, but nobody is doing anything about it. And that's why the trust of community is getting lost on doctors. And for doing this, we need to develop socio-culturally relevant learning resources. We need to, people like you, people like me, we need to write books relevant to the ethical scenarios in our context, in our region. I have used books from Daryl Macer. Daryl Macer has done a lot of work on this. Daryl Macer himself is from Australia or New Zealand, but he has done a lot of work in Asia. And I was listening to his talk yesterday and could not thank him enough, because there are very few people who have actually written contextually relevant, culturally relevant books on ethics. And talking from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh perspective, the subcontinent perspective, there are a very limited number of books. And we are all trying, we are all doing whatever we can, but I think we need more. We need more. Dr. Shamima is doing a lot of good work in Bangladesh, and I really salute her for taking this as a real challenge for her. And there are a lot of other people who are doing a lot of good work. Ahmed Jafri and his team, Farhat Mozam and his team in Pakistan is doing a lot of good work. But I think it's not enough. We cannot say 3 or 4 people in a region cannot change everything. So we need more people in it. Dedicated faculty, qualified and trained for teaching bioethics. Daryl or Shamima or Shahid cannot teach bioethics in every institute of the country. We need to have more qualified people who are trained for teaching bioethics as a social science subject, not as a hard science subject. Thank you very much. That was all. And if there are any questions, I'm ready to take them.
Professor Mohammad, please allow me to express my deepest gratitude for participating today. We greatly appreciate your presentation. It was such an insightful presentation. So if there is any question or anything to add or to say, we would be